Hello enigmas, welcome to another top 8 video series of classical guitar and all there is to know about this fabulous music genre brought by your host, Delia. Today we're counting down our picks for the top 8 classical guitar pieces composed by the one and only Paraguayan cacique of classical guitar, the great Agustin Barrios Mangore. For this list, we have brought you a compilation of the most influential pieces this great guitar virtuoso composed throughout his entire career and their influence in the classical guitar music genre. Before we proceed with our first entry, we are giving a shout out to our good friend Daniel Girdner. This video and the improvements done on this channel were possible thanks to him, so do not forget to check out his awesome classical guitar channel by checking the link on the description of this video or by clicking the info card on the top right corner of the screen. Without further ado, let's proceed with our top 8. Number 8. Vidalita. Our first entry is a piece of Barrios that is overlooked by many classical guitar performers and even to be considered somehow underrated. This masterpiece has two different versions, one by the name Vidalita, which is in A major key, and the other one Vidalita with variations, which is in A minor key. Since we have limited information about this piece, we encourage you to share with us what you know about it and consider adding it to your classical guitar repertoire if you are a performer. Number 7. Vals No. 4 Opus 8. Barrios' compositions can be divided into three basic categories: folkloric, imitative, and religious. Imitating the compositional style and techniques of the Baroque and Romantic periods was another side to his craftsmanship. As of Vals No. 4, he is offering a mixture of folkloric music and neoclassical musical style that is reflected in the sequence of complex and fast-paced solos you hear throughout the piece. This masterpiece will also give you the feeling that you want to go out to dance with its basic Vals style rhythm. At last, it is good to know that this is the most prolific Vals piece ever written by Agustin Barrios. Number 6. Las Abejas. This is a piece that is considered by many an impossible piece to learn. The majority of classical guitar performers who have dared to learn and master it have even said that Las Abejas is probably the most difficult classical guitar piece ever composed by Agustin Barrios. The speed at which you need to play it is considered insane. Agustin Barrios composed Las Abejas in 1921, the same year he wrote La Catedral. Although the piece is classified as a study and it is said that Barrios rarely performed it for audiences, the song has been recorded and performed by modern artists almost as much as La Catedral. Number 5. Un Sueño en la Floresta. Our number 5 pick on the list is a tremolo mixed with arpeggios and neoclassical guitar solos. Since Agustin Barrios had a trademark of composing pieces in folkloric style, the majestic tremolo piece Un Sueño en la Floresta is perhaps the most difficult and complex tremolo piece ever conceived for guitar. The extremely romantic flavor and soaring melody belie the fact that the technical work required here is formidable, requiring extended left-hand stretches, long musical phrases, intricate independent movements of voices, a virtuosic cadenza, and even a high C that requires a 20th fret on the traditional 19th fret classical guitar. Un Sueño en la Floresta elevates the technique of tremolo to a new level, carrying it well beyond the earlier Francisco Tárrega's Recuerdos de la Alhambra and Sueño. Barrios wrote this piece about 1917 and recorded it in 1929. Number 4. Canción de Kuna. We have to understand that no matter how prestigious the classical guitar maestro Agustin Barrios has become over the decades, there is always going to be a masterpiece ignored by the classical guitar community. In this case, we have this beautiful composition called Canción de Kuna. A piece that is extremely underrated and that we seldom see YouTube videos of this piece being played by performers. This piece is so underrated that there is little to almost no information about it on the internet. The only thing we were able to find out regarding the piece is that John Williams, a former student of Andrés Segovia, was one of the first performers to play it on stage and record a CD performing the piece. John Williams was able to find the piece in the archive of compositions that Barrios left, and for that, we are grateful that he made it known in his repertoire. We hope to see more performers give recognition to Canción de Kuna so that it becomes a cult masterpiece of Barrios someday. Number 3. Una limosnita por el amor de Dios. Once again, we bring a tremolo piece composed by Agustin Barrios. Una limosnita por el amor de Dios has an alternative name known as El Último Tremolo in Spanish, or The Last Song as a popular translation in English. The translation of the name of this piece should be something like A Penny for God's Sake. This is the last piece that Barrios wrote before his departure from this life in El Salvador in the year 1944. There is a very sad story behind Una limosnita por el amor de Dios, which is a detail that is represented on the super sad melody of the piece. First of all, the sad story behind the piece is about a very poor old lady who happened to knock on the door of the house of Agustin Barrios in El Salvador. When Agustin Barrios opened the door to see who it was, he saw the old lady standing in front, and she asked him for a penny. Barrios, feeling so sorry and touched about the poor old lady's need for money, he received some inspiration to compose his last song. Upon completion of the song, Agustin Barrios passed away 1 month later. Una limosna por el amor de Dios is up to date one of the saddest classical guitar pieces out there, and it is one that represents the sad music style that Barrios portrayed in his works. Number 2. Danza Paraguaya. We talked about this piece before in our top 8 video series of most famous classical guitar pieces, and now we have it back here on the top 8 exclusively dedicated to Agustin Barrios. Danza Paraguaya, which means Paraguayan dance in Spanish, is one of Barrios' most iconic masterpieces. The Paraguayan composer takes the traditional dance of his country and makes it a jewel suitable for any classical guitar repertoire. Being a virtuous piece, it requires the performer to dedicate a lot of time to practice hand stretching and perfect coordination of both hands. And for reasons like this is that Danza Paraguaya is a cultural icon of Paraguayan music that puts this country on the eye of every classical guitar lover who enjoys the music of Agustin Barrios. Before we continue with our number 1 pick, be sure to subscribe to Delia Music and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Make sure you click on all notifications, and if you are on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. And now, before we unveil what we have for you on our number 1 pick, here are 4 honorable mentions. Number 1. La Catedral. We had to see this coming on place number 1 since it is the most predictable favorite Agustin Barrios compositions to ever exist in the history of classical guitar music. First of all, when it comes to Agustin Barrios compositions, this is the very first masterpiece that every performer wants to learn. On the other hand, La Catedral is known to be one of the most difficult classical guitar pieces of all time. Consisting of 3 different movements, the Preludio Saudade, the Andante Religioso, and the Allegro Solemne. Each of these are pure music poetry and the best representation of the legacy of Agustin Barrios. Also, it is good to know that Barrios originally composed the Andante Religioso and the Allegro Solemne as part of the first version of La Catedral in 1928. But it was not until the year 1939 that Barrios decided to add the first movement, Preludio Saudade. Although some people reject the first movement as being part of La Catedral, it fits perfectly with the rest of the work and it is a great work in its own right. Without it, La Catedral would not be the same masterpiece as we know it today. And to sum up, La Catedral is a perfect trademark composition to represent Agustin Barrios and the classical guitar music genre as a whole. So what do you think about these enigmas? Do you agree with our top 8? What Agustin Barrios pieces do you think are the most iconic ones? Please let us know through your comments what you think. Do not forget to share, like and comment on this video. Your host Delia will always be here on Delia Music to inform you about music and perform classical guitar masterpieces. We hope you enigmas have enjoyed this video. Until we meet again.